All right, here we are getting started with AI image generation. I'm your guide, Bevan Bird, and anyone can make amazing art with AI, like what you see on the screen here. The one on the left was with Lexica with a free trial a few days ago, and the other two was with Midjourney. And I can show you exactly how I made them. Okay, so we're going to hopefully it's going to give you a lot of um, uh, it's going to be a treat for your eyes and also for your mind. Okay, we're experimenting with creating art with AI today, just getting started, probably using a free trial, Midjourney or Lexica. And yeah, Catherine, you're using Lexica today. Okay, and this is actually a lie, but I prepared it. So, but I actually didn't really go for a walk in the woods today. But I did that yesterday and got the idea for how I would tell you the story. And also, walking in the woods is a way that I get inspiration too, like from nature, just being in alignment or in a great state of being. So that image on the right, the big one, that's generated with AI. Okay. I've been an artist my whole life. Here I am at age 4, painting at a community event. I think that my unconventional childhood made me more creative. You can see here me here with my dad making music in Mexico, and also there at Agua Azul, which is also in Mexico at the set of a Tarzan film. My mom took the picture of us there. Okay, I have a background in computer graphics, games, and software. And you will see something later based on those 3D shapes with the dots in space. And it's cool because the AI takes a look at that and then goes beyond. I started investing in Bitcoin and other decentralized networks in 2020. And this picture here is like my first NFT. I gave that one to my dad. Yeah, in 2021, I was exposed to the exciting world of NFTs as Axie Infinity took blockchain gaming mainstream. And I also created and sold my first NFTs that year. That's an example. But I was making the art manually, so that's a slow process. Here's cheetah sighting number 1. The cheetah verse is like a parallel universe, like an imaginary world or a universe where cheetahs are the dominant species, life form. There's no people. So cheetahs are the stars. There's cheetah sighting number 2. It also shows you my slow progress, but cheetah sightings is like a different collection, right, than the first thing. In the first collection, all I did was change the background color, and it's just a gradient. I changed the colors and settings of the gradient and made 21 for the 21 million Bitcoin. Here, we have this Luna crash. So Luna started to make me financially free, this investment. $600 worth of Luna at 21 cents became worth over $300,000. And then this crash. So the passive income from it was like financial freedom, but that didn't last very long, although it lasted through this period here. Yeah, and so luckily we sold it. Okay, so then we have the long dark siesta of the soul. And you have, these are just zoom in pictures like of this because you won't see the detail without that zoom in there. Yeah, so I was making the art manually and it's a slow process. It takes a lot of time. Those are rich cats by the lake. And so a lot of different variations I created, like different parts, and put them on different layers, and I can turn them on and off. And then in combination, we can generate many variations. Like with what I made there and that program, there was over 25,000 of combinations, but you could do however many you want, really. Okay, and that's the most rare one in that collection. I just showed you 50 different ones there. But that one, he has this space shuttle with his branded for himself, right? And he has the blue diamonds. It's the most rare. Okay, so another thing, right? Well, Luna, that could have an epic recovery. Well, potentially, right? So then you can see here how I was making this thing manually. You're not going to see exactly how I was making it, but I'm just showing because I'm telling the story of how I got into AI art. So it was taking a lot of time. I got a layer for the sky, and I made different versions of the sky, and then a background, which I've like outlined here, and then the cheetah in front of that background, and then a foreground area. So by making different variations of each, we can multiply them together. You can use my software to turn the different ones on and off and create more variations. So that background highlighted was the simplest one. That's what I started with. It's like a placeholder. It's kind of like computer game graphics. And it's using vector graphics in Inkscape, but I started with a bitmap. Okay, so then here I was making this more advanced background. Don't worry about the cheetah part here. See, that won't matter because the cheetah will actually go in front of that, because this thing is just the background, which would go into this area. So that's why it's that kind of aspect ratio, like a landscape thing. So I was making a much more detailed one, right? It's incredibly more detailed, tropical jungle with a lot of waterfalls. And I put this together with a lot of different photos. And I found out you got to build it from the back to the front, like layer, so you don't have to do things again and again. Just put things that are behind first and then draw forward, coming closer towards the viewer. And you can see I didn't finish here and down there, but it's in progress. Okay, so then, yeah, in 2022, my dad got sick and was also in the hospital, and there was all these appointments. Taking care of him was taking so much time. There wasn't enough time. The art basically stopped. Okay, and then basically in August or September, I found out about this. There was a game creator who he won a real world art contest with AI generated art. So I took notice, started playing with the tool that he used to do it, which is Midjourney. He made it with Midjourney, but he also upscaled it with Gigapixel. Upscaling makes you take the image and then make it, using a different AI, give it more detail, and so you can put it on a bigger canvas. So you can put it on a bigger screen or a bigger canvas and stuff. So he got his best ones. You can see his post there when he shared that he had won, and he was making a statement about you could make AI art in a competitive manner and win. And that was really cool, and he won with his favorite piece. But you see, he generated hundreds of different images and was fine-tuning his prompt and the different image generations that came from it, right? And curating them, and then making more variations of those, and so on, iteratively, until getting to what he wanted, the effect he wanted to achieve. And then he upscaled them with Gigapixel, and then had them printed on canvas, which costs money, right? And when he won that prize for he entered all three of these, his favorite three, won that prize, that paid for printing those on the canvas. And it's a start too. It helped him build his brand and make a splash. And it was like all in the news, all over the place. That's how I found out about it. Okay. And so I started to experiment with it, and then I realized I could make the backgrounds. So then my art went to the next level using that. So instead of just having a colored background, I put AI generated backgrounds, and the art got moving again. It's fast, just like cheetahs. All right, so there's a whole bunch more of those, but you get the idea. So I'm making 40 there. I think I've basically got most of them done already. The first collection only had 21. The second collection, you can see it's a lot more engaging, in my opinion. And there's 40 of those, and the prices are still to be announced. And then this is like it's like creature loot imagined or something. It's visualizations from a parallel universe. And you can see the style is quite interesting. So I wanted to show different styles today. Different creatures, right? I invented the names of creatures, but without actually drawing them. So that's inspired by the project called Loot. And we're gonna have a cosmic loot, but we won't go into that because this is just about making art, not about the NFTs yet at this point. Lewis Wayne changed the way we look at cats, and his art about cats is really cool. It's fun and engaging. Okay, so yeah, early this year, I started to make Bitcoin cheetahs. Yeah, that's not the same thing as the original ones, because those were OG Bitcoin cheetahs. There's only 21 of those. There can't ever be any more. But these ones, There can be more, and I haven't decided how many there can be, but the point is that then the Bitcoin cheaters are back. They're not OGs though. It doesn't have that, plain or like gradient background. It'll have more cool, different, interesting backgrounds like all over the Cheetahverse. So there's number one, and there's number two. All right, so since then, when I started September 2022, I've generated over 27,000 images on Midjourney, as you can see, and about a variety of different subjects. I'm exploring different styles, and I'm experimenting to see if we can make new styles, which I believe that we can. And you will decide, or whoever, over time, we're gonna see if we're really making new styles or if I'm just blowing hot air. Okay. I'm also making art for fun every day. In fact, I'm creating a new NFT art collection about people doing things just for fun. It's really just about the energy of just for fun. I think you're gonna love it. There's new pieces coming online every week. You can see how this image is similar to that one, but not exactly the same, but it's in a similar style. And I've been getting good feedback about this one. And someone just told me a couple of days ago, it's like a gallery piece. She would expect that she would think it would be in a gallery, and we're creating it with AI, like almost for free, right? Which is amazing. So you can use art, the images that you make with the free trial only for personal use. But if you get a paid plan, then you can use it commercially, use it for whatever you want. And when I sell NFTs, I can give people rights, even commercial rights, to use the art too. So then the possibilities continue to be endless in more ways than one. Yeah, just for fun energy, a new collection. There's a link to it there. When you do things just for fun, you get into a state of flow. And that's what life's all about, and being an artist. Okay, yeah, so you can see in the prompt, because like what I do is get into a state of being and then create the art generally. Also, being in a certain state of being will get you more creative, right? And get the ideas in the first place. So I jot them down when they come. And so we also want to make people feel something with our art, right? Well, maybe we don't, but I do. And so you want to tell the AI what kind of feeling to give it to. So you can see there, well, I'm not sure if you'll see my mouse, but it says with a feeling of great joy, right? They're playing with wild abandon with a feeling of great joy. It says at the bottom, intense feelings of love, warmth, joy, playful exuberance permeate the piece. So that's an example. It's important to put feeling into it. Tell it what kind of feeling you want. That's a way to take the art to another level beyond just saying, it's a certain thing, like a raccoon doing a certain thing or in a certain place, and in this style, paint it in this style. Okay, but we can go beyond that, right? Give the mood or the atmosphere, the feeling you want. You can say what the people are doing or what they're thinking. You can give it more depth so that the characters are taking action and they have emotion, and that people feel the emotion through the art, which is great, in my opinion. So then here, another one, right? These are just for fun. So I'm showing you the prompts that I use to make them. But when you put the prompt in, you won't get the same painting, right? You could get like an infinite number of different things, but there's a seed number, like a random number. The seed number could be a random number, but if you find out what it is, then you can keep using the same seed also and change the prompt and say, oh, no, we don't want like disfigured characters or like grotesque. We don't want extra limbs or missing hands or, that kind of thing. If it's doing that, like in this one, her hand was missing here. Okay, so you can do that, and you could use the same seed and change the prompt and then see how it's changing the image. So that's cool, but that's a little more advanced than the very beginning though, right? Okay, is punctuation important in the prompt? I'm not sure. Like you can put commas between parts of it. I put commas between things, sometimes periods. Well, I'll show more examples, right? We'll get more into it. And of course you can experiment with that. Okay. So another just for fun, right? I just made this one, right before we started today, just to show that we can make uniqueness at scale. Each painting is unique, and we can do scale, as many as you want. So that's the one we had, but too many people liked it, and I was going to give it to someone, but then there's too many people that like the same ones. So, well, then we need more of those, right? So I made another variation just to show you, and we can keep going, right? But I have to pick the ones we want. The AI won't do everything. We got to pick, you know, and use our taste and stuff, and we'll get into that more. Oh yeah, right. So see, I'm telling the story, right? That's how I got to where I am now, is needed time, needed a way to do it without taking so much time. AI made it better. We started to make a lot more art and get going again and got inspired and everything. And so now I'm not only making art, and I have sold a bit of art, now I'm helping, guiding, and inspiring others to start making their own amazing art. People say the art's amazing. You can do it too. And yeah, so be patient with yourself, because obviously there's a learning curve, but like that's what I'm here to help you with. So you can ask me anything. And why am I doing it is to expand our imagination and our horizons as people. Okay. Oh yeah, and once I'm making a living through my art, then I will share how I do it to help more artists prosper. And once I'm making a fortune, I'm sure my audience will be a bit larger. But don't get distracted by the art though, because here's what we're focusing on today: experimenting, making art with AI. First, I'm just sharing some with you, hopefully to inspire, get your mind going, jot down any ideas you get, or even type them in the chat. And we're just getting started. Okay. So yeah, you remember this. Now I made an example last night so that you can see that it was taking a really, well, it doesn't say how long I was taking, but I was taking a long time to make this. And then last night I took a couple clips from this because I thought, you know, because I like the way that I made the stuff with these vines and stuff in the jungle, and that could be the background for a game. So the cheetah could be running through the jungle, jumping over things and all that stuff. You know, it could be that, but you need a lot of graphics for a game, right? Well, no problem, because the AI can draw art in any style for you. So I just took these clips. The first one is the top of a waterfall. It's over here. And then this thing here, the jungle beside the base of a waterfall with that bit of a light pool here. And to make this, I used a lot of different photos, little bits of them, and put them together and smooth and clone and smooth, like blur or like smudge a lot of stuff, and fill in the gaps, right? Like those gaps, but starting and then coming this way, and lots, and maybe a few other things too. Right. So now you see the image, the reference image in the lower right corner, jungle at the top of the waterfall. It's not a real photo, right? It's little bits made from different photos. It's kind of like pixel art or whatever. It's just a collage I put together. So when I put that in the AI and I said I wanted a certain kind of thing, like a kind of jungle, I didn't give it a very long prompt. It's pretty simple. So David Hockney on the left style, but it won't be exactly his style. See, it's like I'm saying, make this thing in this style, and with this image, we can also weight the image differently. So whatever, that's details, right? We'll get into other stuff in the future. Try to get through this quickly. So then on the right, I said like a palette knife style. So it puts these chunks of color, like little areas. So that all these other ones are palette knife. And we can have a whole bunch of, like, you can have an infinite number of paintings inspired by that little thing. And I also did variations of them. And then like at a point I would take out my reference image. So then I'm doing a variation of the thing we're looking at, you know, like David Hockney style thing on the left there. But then I'm just using the text prompt where it says David Hockney style jungle thing, right? But it doesn't have the image anymore. And that way it doesn't degrade the quality of it using that image. It wants to draw it in his style. So we may see some of that later, but if not, it would be like another day. Unless you really want to see it, we could go into it. Okay, so now we see the one at the bottom. There's a pool at the bottom of the waterfall. You can see the different reference image there. So now there, see there's a David Hockney on the left based on that. And then that palette knife thing and a few different palette knife ones. Okay, maybe, I think it's just that. And then Matisse on the left, the big big kind of areas of color and the cutouts. Okay. So this is an example where you can see I've got that top of the waterfall reference image, but I'm giving less influence to that. So more influence to the text prompt. And David Hockney there. So we're calling that image A. I put a little A label, so we may refer to it later. But anyway, by doing that iteratively, do the same process again, like make more variations of the best ones each time. Over time, you keep doing it. I can even show you that, like if we have time, right? When we're practically doing it, that's one of the things. It's one of the things we do. So I take the image prompt out and then I'm just making variations of the thing and maybe even adjusting the style. So there, it's like Picasso didn't really do landscapes, but if he did, maybe it would look like that. But there's an infinite number of possible ones he could do. There's a couple of other ones. So he's really scrambling the landscape, doing a weird kind of smooth cubism, like little parts of it that are mixed and moved around. And also the lines, different lines connecting, which you might see. Yeah, no, yeah, there are some in here. Anyway, okay, and then Salvador Dali on the left and Rembrandt going back further. Okay, just to show that you can make different styles. And then to make up a new style, for example, using a few different artists, Dan Mumford, Vincent van Gogh, and David Hockney. So with those three, now we have kind of a more unique style here. And both of those, Vincent van Gogh, like his paintings. Of course, not exactly like it, but remember, we can remove the reference image after a while. You can use that to guide it, to get it started. Then you can also take it out, keep doing variations, and say that you really want it to look like a real Vincent van Gogh. Okay. So you were saying, yeah, is that how you did your last picture with a girl jumping from one candle to the next animation? I didn't make that. I found that on immerse.zone. I can also share with you places where we can search for images like and art and photos and things. So that was one of the sites, but we'll go to that another, in another part of it. It's versatile what we can do with AI art. Here's Van Gogh. Now I'm starting to show you prompts that I used. So yeah, it's simple. Stunning professional art by Vincent van Gogh depicting a beautiful tropical jungle scene with vines, trees, and a waterfall, because that's what I drew in the pixel thing. Okay, and there's a Matisse. Oh yeah, so I had realized that I'd forgotten to put in the feeling, right? And I was already making a bunch of them. And then I was like, hey, wait, we forgot that, right? There's no emotion. So it says there, feeling of joy plus love plus gladness, it's and exuberance and ecstasy. Yeah, in a documentary about Matisse, it said that he was in a state of ecstasy, like on his honeymoon when he went to a place by the ocean, and he basically wanted to depict it in the art, like convey the feeling of ecstasy through it, and he invented a new style that didn't exist. It's kind of like that. Okay, David Hockney. So I probably took away the reference image to start having it go more like his style. And so that's another thing you can do is, like, if you know your favorite artists or the styles that you like, make a list of them, right? And then you can start to make art in their style or combine them and try to make new styles. And also, if you're not familiar with a style, then we Google them, like Google their name or their name and art, and then go to like Google image search or look on some big art sites, and look at the art just to see what the style really looks like. Because if you do that first, it will help when you're picking the variations, the ones that you like best and the ones you want to make variations of. And so it's a process. We keep growing over time. Oh yeah, Dali. So I made a Matisse style one. Then I was like, oh, I'd like to see that as a Dali. So I click make variations. But because I've got it in remix mode, I can change the prompt whenever I do a variation instead of just doing the same prompt again. So that's called a remix. And then, so I spun it off from a Matisse and changed it from Matisse to Dali, and I probably left the whole rest of the prompt the same. There's another one. It's just like, it gave 4 variations every time, and I picked a couple just to show and upscaled them. All right. So here I used that reference image. This is like one image of a 3D shape that I created with the computer, like with math. And it's a bunch of little dots in space, just colored dots in space. And it was rotating, but you know, it's a shape. And so I put that in, and you can see all of these were made using it, but there's also a description, like the Yucatan in Mexico. You might see some jungle in the one on the left. You might see some jungle behind the weird 3D shape. So with the one on the right, it's kind of like a glass sculpture, right? So it makes all kinds of things. And if you're vague in your description, then it means you'll get a lot of variety in what you get out of it. If you're specific, then it will be more specific, because anything you specify should be what it follows as instructions, or at least a guide or inspiration. And anything you don't specify, it will just kind of, you know, it can be anything. So there'll be more variation. That's just a closer look at that. It's like a kind of 3D thing. And yeah, there might be perspective and stuff in it. It might be a little like Escher. It made me think of Escher. So then I made variations of it with Escher's influence. So you can see here just some variations. And here now I'm starting to show the prompts that I did. So I added in Escher, and I think the rest of it I left the same. So I just said, yeah, that it's a high quality professional painting by MC Escher, depicting the same thing that it already said before. It's an interesting 3D shape. See, that's very vague, like very general. That's why it would come up with all kinds of things. So that's interesting too, right? Now the prompt is different there. Yeah, right. So I simplified the prompt. This is what I did last night. I took away a lot of that unnecessary specific stuff and only included what I wanted to include in it. And then another one, right? You could get a lot of different variations with any prompt, as many as you want. Okay. So we can have the reference image in, or we can take it out too. I think I may have taken it out here. Right, so there's that shape, but then what if we make variations of that one? Oh yeah, I think you have a question. Oh, image weight too. Yeah, the question IW2. If you change the image weight, yeah, you can change the image weight. I think image weight by default is 1/4. So that means that the text is weighted 1, and the image, if you put an image in with it, that will only be weighted 1/4 of what the text is. But you can change it to anything you want. So here I've weighted it a lot more, but this is just a setting I had before. I didn't specify that yesterday. It's just in the prompt, and I had just simplified the prompt down a bit. So yeah, I've experimented with that. Like, you know, 1/4, half, 1, 2, 4, things like that. Okay, so yeah, I tried this last night and made variations of it. So now this is a lot more rough and random and stuff, and this is a different variation of it. And then that is a lot more flat. It got really flat in here. It doesn't go in deep, just really shallow. And then it also did this too. Okay, the reference image. Yeah, I could. Okay, well, I think what you mean about the reference image in the prompt is like the link. There's a link to the image in the prompt. So I have this link up here, like a shortened link that it made in Discord or in Midjourney. It made that short link, which is this image. And that's just this image in space, like in black space with these colored dots, if that's what you're asking. Okay. Yeah, right. Yeah, that same reference image I used for all of them. So when I showed it here, yeah, all 3 of them were made from that, and maybe even a similar prompt, or maybe the same prompt. That's why I was showing. It's vague because it said like an interesting 3D shape, and that way it comes up with all kinds of things. So we had those 3 things, and then yesterday I made variations of them, or of a couple of them. So I'm showing that here. So yeah, look, that's quite a bit different, right? Interesting. Well, what about that one, like by Van Gogh, for example? We can do that at any time, right? Spin things off. go in any direction at any time, or make a clip of something, some small piece of it, and mix things together. So you do whatever you want. So yeah, by Van Gogh now. So I just added that in, right? I kind of changed the prompt, and you can see here at the beginning, high quality professional painting by Vincent van Gogh, depicting the same thing we already had before, an interesting 3D shape. Okay, and then another one, like a variation of it, and another variation. And you can see those little twirls or twists, little spirals, the curves. That's like going more, I think, more like his style. But AI is not going to do everything for us. We must provide the inspiration, the vision. That's like like seeing something that's not there yet. It's not in physical reality yet, but we see it in our mind. We imagine it, or we dream it up, or whatever. We provide inspiration, vision, and guidance for AI. We contribute our taste and our sense of style. I was experimenting, making many, or like trying to invent styles and making, that was the experiment I was doing with this. I was trying to make a lot of different styles or new ones, and that's still in progress, with an Aphrodite and cherry blossoms and up in the mountains and by a stream. Okay. Right, so we contribute our sense of style. These are water lilies that Monet never actually painted. Monet's art is like in the public domain, so anyone can just take it and sell it. Although a photo of, someone's photo of it is their thing. But anyway, the thing is that Monet only painted so many paintings of water lilies, but we can generate more of them. And then you'll see here that I start to play with the style and put some influence into that style from other artists like Lisa Frank, for example, because she does really colorful stuff. And we can create uniqueness at scale. Every single painting unique, and that's amazing. So each one of these is different. The woman is different, the jungle is different, or flowers, right? And the pyramid and the sky. So every one of them is different. You can make as many variations as you want. You can choose what the art looks like, and it can just go on infinitely. But don't get overwhelmed by what you create, though. So you have to kind of organize things or whatever. But first, we're just talking about creating it in the first place. So you can create as much as you want in whatever style you want, even make new styles. Here, this little demonstration, I'm on Midjourney. Upscales are selected, right? So that we're only seeing upscales. If you have grids, it would be showing all 4 pictures, like before we upscale them, when it shows you like 4 possibilities for variations. So I was on upscales, and then I click that thing to select multiple, and you can just kind of click on one and drag across if you want to. And then I open the downloader and download them. It gets the download a zip. And this way you don't have to click to download each image. Right, so then you can see here, that's how I created this. And yeah, they're not perfect or whatever. The text doesn't make sense. I didn't want the text. We can say don't put text. I even said that, it's still there. Okay, but I'm showing you those without even, I didn't trim it or clip it down, right? So here's one. And at first I didn't even see that gun there because it kind of blends in with the tree behind her, the cherry tree. And this is a weaponized ship, military. I think it reminds me of Neon Genesis Evangelion, like the way the ships were. But anyway, I didn't notice this rifle or something. But here's the next one, and another one, right? And we don't know if she has a gun or not there, but the other 2, she definitely has one. Okay, and that's all with the same prompt, right? It's just different variations, and I just upscaled a few of them. Okay. And if you give a specific prompt, then you'll more likely get the desired outcome. Anything you don't specify will just be random. So every time we hit variations, you'll get different things of those parts that aren't specified. So you can see that that's a pretty specific prompt. And I didn't do this very recently. This was in the first month. So also the AIs get better, and it's different versions of Midjourney too, right? So it would have actually generated better art with the same prompt now than it did back then. Yeah, and like, so on their face and the eyes and stuff, there's some things in the early ones which aren't as good, but they're getting better. And then you may see things that I've made more recently too. All right, so here, yeah, so it's an example. We're showing this style, like trying to make different styles. So here I just combined ukiyo-e and retrofuturism. That's going into the past, like say the 1950s or whenever, like sci-fi. It's imagining the future, but they did that in the past. So it's what did they imagine back then? And you can see that on the covers of sci-fi books and stuff from like the last century, right? The 20th century. And I combined it with a style from Japan, like from earlier centuries. And there aren't many people making ukiyo-e style art now, but we can create new stuff, and it can actually be in real ukiyo-e styles. But here we're making hybrid new styles. Okay, so we can make uniqueness at scale, right? Keep remembering that, because that's what I'm demonstrating, that you can make as much as you want in different styles. And once you get something good, then you can make variations of it. Here I put in a reference image. I've shown the image to the right. That's an AI image, right? It's like a photorealistic one. It's a kind of art, and that I generated that also based on Christy Brinkley. Yeah, and then we can keep remixing and changing the style of the art we're creating, the image on the left, and take the reference image out as well. You can have it in and then take it out, try different variations, and change the style as you go, remixing. And then you find the ones that work best and do more variations of those. And you iterate, and you can experiment with changing things at any time. We can also randomly generate the prompts, right? Because we can create these prompts with software, like in Excel or with software I make, for example, and then make it say this person or whatever, this different characters that you're making up are doing different things in a different scene, a different place, with like it has this kind of feeling, and like draw it in this style or whatever. So you can do that, and we can just randomize each part. We may not actually do that today, although we might, depends on time, but we'll definitely do it in the future one for sure, because I want to share it with you. So yeah, when I did variations of certain ones, you can see at the beginning how I added more instructions. It says clothed, right? Make it decent because of the nudity. And it's not supposed to have nudity. It's not supposed to go above PG-13. But the thing is that the AI does it anyway. Anyway, Midjourney has the setting in it, right? And it has an image filter in version 4 and on. So when you upload an image into it, it won't allow it with a certain filter using AI. But I used Lexica, and it didn't have the filter. Okay, but anyway, this is with Midjourney. So when I hit variation, I remixed, right? I changed the prompt and typed in, clothed and stuff. I put the instructions in at the beginning, add more exclamation marks for more emphasis. And then once it made a variation, once it got to certain variations that I accepted, then I'm showing it here. Yeah, okay. This doesn't look like Hilda or whatever Osland, who I believe is Norwegian. That's currently my favorite, like beautiful looking woman, right? Like physical appearance. This doesn't look like her here, okay? But this more does look like her though, or kind of, right? But anyway, the art here got to a much higher. This went to a much higher quality. Depends on the style that you want, right? So you try different things, experiment with changing like one little thing in the prompt each time, and you can still run the same prompts over and over too when it's giving good results. But if you try different things, get different results, find something better, whatever something is better or the best one you have, make more variations of that. That's why these ones are similar, because they're variations of the same character and also kind of the same style, right? Oh yeah. So right, so drawing characters that no one's ever seen before. That's from the creature. It's like from Creature Loot of Venloaten Fanged Rakabor. See, it's a fanged Rakabor from Venloat or something, like a certain planet. So then obviously the AI doesn't know what to draw there, because what I've described doesn't exist, or like there's nothing known about it. That means that the results we get from it will then be more varied, because it's going to be more random, because it's not already defined by photos and art that people already know about, or like you could find on Google, on the internet. So yeah, here I'm saying that it's 1990s expressionist graffiti, right? So I kind of made up or just hybridized a style. And I also said by these artists. So that's all that is creating the style. Okay. What is the best prompt format for Midjourney? Just start with the basics, keep it simple at the beginning, describe what you want to see. So just having a really, if the better use you have of the English language, then the better results you'll get. Both of my parents are English teachers. I probably can communicate better in writing than in speaking. Add styles. Yeah, describe what you want and try it and add different styles until it's closer to what you imagined what you want. And you might want like an artistic or an illustrative or photorealistic style. I'm including references when I copy, like when I'm using someone else's work, right? So if you have a question, English, the only language used? No, I saw prompts in Chinese, which I couldn't read, and it was still giving good results. I don't know how they do it, but you can use translators online. Google Translate, so we could even find out what the person typed into there, which we're not going to do here. It may not be appropriate. Okay, right. So yeah, use simple words, common words that are known about in art or in photos, so that the AI already has a reference for what you mean by the thing, like a dog. But not like hate or love or something like that, because it's inanimate. But we're talking about subjects or objects that you can that are known, well known. And you got to make it descriptive, like specific. So for example, a rainbow colored butterfly flying across a field of flowers during a sunset. So a good thing to do is when you're reading books, listening to audiobooks or something, and it's describing scenes really well, if you like the scene or you like the imagery it creates in your mind when you're reading it, because reading stimulates the imagination, then I take note of those sometimes. So I made art based on a crystal chamber. Maybe I'll show it to you. Like, it's not in this thing, but I could show it if you want after. And yeah, so it was described in the sci-fi book, and then I just type in what it said, the way it was described, and I generate art with it, try different styles if I want, and then even edit the way it was described, re-describe it differently, try different things to try to get it to look how I want, maybe, or just to see what happens. All right. So describe the thing, right? We said it was like a king or a queen, dog, or whatever. A ferry. I mean, like a boat, right? A ship. So words like beautiful, colorful, detailed, massive, powerful, things like that. You can do massive scale. I'm not sure what the other thing would be, macro scale or something, or like zooming in. But yeah, making something a massive scale is like a Hieronymus Bosch. And there's different, like sometimes that's what you want. And if you want an art style, add in the names of well-known artists. You can probably use any artist. The data set keeps getting updated. And then say what style you want, like abstract or contemporary, cubism, cyberpunk, fantasy, impressionism, minimalism. There's maximalism, modern, realism, surreal, yeah, impressionist, expressionist, photorealistic. There's other things too. Okay, and also you can be specific about the type of rendering software, like Octane Render, V-Ray, Unreal Engine, ray tracing. Okay, another way to look at it is like, what are we drawing and how do you describe it, and then the style. So like an example, a raccoon reading a book in a library, and you want it photorealistic, right? Photorealistic photography, whatever. And it's a close shot or mid shot or some other thing. And there's one with this finch, little bird, kind of a painting, and they were a lot more specific there. A tiny finch on a branch with spring flowers on background. I think there's a weighting thing there, but that, I mean, if it says weighting 1, isn't it, that means the whole thing is, I mean, the whole thing is that weight anyway, it's default. But you can weight different parts of the text, but we're not getting into that. That's more advanced. I'm not sure why they put that in the simple example. Aesthetically inspired by Evelyn De Morgan, art by Bill Sienkiewicz, and Dr. Seuss, ray tracing, volumetric lighting, octane render. See, they're a lot more specific. Oh yeah. And describing that subject. The subject is like the person, the character, or a building, or like a whale inside a fish tank, a giant fish tank in New York or whatever. But then describing the thing, it'd be like it's a translucent fish tank, or it's transparent, right? It's filled with pink water, or like light blue water, or whatever. It's like describing the thing more, what the person's doing. And style, you could say style can impact the style and the framing and composition, and we'll want to look more about how to describe that in the future, like how to control it more, and also the perspective and stuff like that. But just experiment with it, just tell it in the simplest words what you want, and just see what happens. And also try the same prompt at least a few times to see what you get, because yeah, you could get quite a variety, and you pick the one closest to it, and then you keep making variations of that, and then you'll get closer to what you're actually trying to make. All right, here, just like if you want to try out all kinds of things, but you don't have ideas to do it, like this post shows a lot of different interesting ideas you could try too, because like layered paper of whatever, like this is, it's like trying to make a layered paper version of Van Gogh's The Starry Night. And there's 4. This is just, I just ran that prompt, and those are 4 it did right off the bat. And then you can upscale them or make variations. And we could, of course, describe it differently. That was just very simple. So I tried that, and it works. There's a bunch more ideas in that post there. And we won't go into advanced things because we're just beginning, it's just starting. And yeah, this is more advanced things. So this, I like this post, so I recommend checking this one out, right? So you can use the things in here to get more out of it and get the desired results. Experiment with various changes, right? These are my instructions, like how to use it. Try different things, try changing parts of it to see what happens. Like someone was drawing stormtroopers, and then they're getting too many 3D models in it. Like they don't want it 3D, they want a cartoon thing like Studio Ghibli. So then they said -- no 3D models or something like that, because they figured, because their hypothesis, right, what they think is happening is there's too many 3D models in the training data. So they're saying, no, don't use 3D models, or don't give me back 3D models, because I want this cartoon thing. And that worked because it filtered them out. So you can use negative prompts too. We don't want the disfigured hands or whatever, like poorly drawn hands and things like that. Curate. Also in the positive, we can say beautiful hands, beautifully detailed hands, right? High quality, detailed perfectionism. You can add to some things and see if that helps too. So as you try different experiments, then you'll see different results, and maybe wildly different results, even though you made small changes to the prompt. So curate the ones that you like best and make more variations of those. Make more, like a larger number of variations of the best ones or the better ones, and fewer of the ones that you don't like as much. And so one thing I do is get the image. Once I kind of bootstrap a project, like I'm making art and I start to make it look good, then I start to find the ones that are good or have potential, and keep a link to those posts. And I take a screenshot of the thing and put that picture into a spreadsheet. So I have a template for that spreadsheet, right? Just to make it easy, because you can just copy that sheet and then use it when you're doing that kind of thing. And then that way you can go back to those ones and continue making variations of them. Because remember, there's a lot of variables, because you could be doing a variation from different starting point images, right? Because any image it generates, you can say make variations of this, but then you can change the prompt and change the style at the same time, or not, leave it the same. So that means that if we have several very different possible prompts that we're experimenting, like split testing, like does this work better or does this work? If I include the reference image or I don't include it, right? Or if I say that I want impressionist painting by Matisse, or I say I just want a painting by Matisse, like not impressionist because Matisse made a new style, right? So if we say things, there's a million ways, there's an infinite number of ways we could describe anything. So then there's a lot of different prompts we could put in. So if we make a few different variations, then we could say, well, let's make variations of the art, the best ones we like, but for each one, we'll put in like 3 or 4 different variations of the text prompt. So I organized that with a spreadsheet just to make it easy. You copy and paste. And because you want to come back to your best ones and make more variations. So that's kind of like what Jason said. I took that from him, like how he had started and already won a contest. So I took from what he said he had done and started to practice that for the first month and then continued on doing it. And then I continued to try to experiment to improve the process. So it's open to a lot of suggestion and experimentation, but we'll do it in a group. We can hang out and make AI art together in the group and in the Zooms. And so that'll be cool. So then we can learn from each other. And like how I created the group, Bevan's Creations, right? Well, then that was a way to start sharing my creations, some things I create with my friends, right? But then I could make another group so that the same purpose could or benefit could be shared by other people. So it's a place for people to share their art in a non-judgmental place. You can just share your stuff and people can enjoy it, and we can give feedback to each other and encourage and stuff, but don't judge it, because remember, they're not sharing it like saying it's a masterpiece and their best work or anything. They're just sharing something because they want to share it. So we don't judge each other. And then that way, that's a community version of the one that I made where I was sharing my stuff. So we could do that. And that's a similar idea. If you hang out and make AI art together in a group, you can help each other. We can learn from each other. So that's a community version of a one-to-many teaching style. Instead of just doing it one-to-many, you can go into the community version. So that's another variation we can do too. Right. So those ones there were these kind of Picasso style paintings of a dog, which is my brother's dog. I took a photo of and put that reference image in. You can see him in different positions in there. I only gave it that, not that, that's a cat, but I only gave it that one reference image, but you still do see different variations. So that's cool, right? Oh yeah, so there's a few things we could do if there's still time. I don't know how long that took, but we could make art together. I could show you how I made something. You can ask me any question, so we could go in any direction you want, because this time's for you. I know it was long the way I did it that way the first time, but yeah, the point of them though is for making art. So it's about you. And or we can make something new, which is that's for me, it's the most exciting. I like to always make new stuff, but then I do it too much. But making this presentation has been good because I focused more, and then hopefully taught you something helpful. And it was to inspire and to maybe give you ideas. It's like give you some, some treats for the eyes, but also for the mind, I hope.